My name is Fedde ten Berge. I'm a sound artist. I work across different disciplines. Mainly sound is my leading trajectory. And I integrate different materials, craftsmanships, to evolve pieces. Within this video I will talk about the piece you see hanging behind me. I will be explaining the hardware aspects of it, as both the applications artistically, because this is a system which implies a certain workflow that implies a certain outcome, but within this framework you're free as an artist to design sound. And I will also explain you a bit about the social implications of the work. It's basically a cube made out of 5 sides, and the cube will hang from the ceiling or from a construction it can be hanged with. Within this cube, one can perceive spatial distributed sound, and the distribution happens in a particular manner. On all the sides, the 5 sides of the cube, there are 16 loudspeakers, so there's a total sum of 80 loudspeakers. The sound that one can make can be routed to all of the 80 loudspeakers. One would drag the box over the head, so you would move into this cage with these open ribbons, and you would perceive sounds coming from all directions according the rules that were set up by the composer or the sound artist. You could influence the composition and the spatial distribution of the sounds that is surrounding you by moving your torso through the installation, because there's a heat camera mounted above you in the top panel. And that basically sets out a frame of 640 by 640. So you would actually be finding yourself into a sonic matrix of 640 cells by 640 cells. So as you would move through the cube, the piece, you can alternate the sound and you can explore the sound. But as you see, the ribbons in between the surfaces are kept open, they're spaced apart. It's a bit of an exploded view, so to say. Besides you being active as a spectator within the piece, investigating the spatial sonic entities by moving your body through the volume, people around the object will also monitor you doing that. I think this is an inherent aspect of sound art. Sound art is actually a very social art form. You experience it together, you experience each other experiencing it. And by the open ribbons of the piece, I try to facilitate that. So it's both an individual as a social experience. And for these 80 loudspeakers, one sound can be addressed to one of the 80 loudspeakers. You have very much different possible locations, so you could address multiple speakers at the same time, but also single source locations at the same time. So by that you can really sculpt a sound in different manners. Other systems don't emphasize on this. Usually it's based on the integral distribution of a whole set of loudspeakers instead of the discrete distribution of a sound over a set of loudspeakers. And so that gives a very in-depth flexibility for anyone who would be working with this system. I intend to make a work for this piece behind me myself, of course. But I'm also intending to invite other people to make works for it, and so for it to be a social framework, something that sound artists who are crafted in the field that is or within the framework that is delivered in this piece can make a work for it. So the focus is to create a big library of artistic perceptions based on such a framework. I'm going to tell you a bit about the work I'm intended to make for this piece. I'm very interested in birds' sound, so the sound that is produced by birds, especially their vocal sound. And I made algorithms for these bird sounds and analyzed them on their onset, so when they would start to vocalize and when they would stop, and I would track their pitches. And then I would also alternate the sounds into new, non-existing bird sounds, but inspired on the vocalization of birds. So basically, the piece hanging behind me would be a sort of a bird cage, where one could move in through all the regions that I encountered, having very nice bird sounds. That would be in the western part of Holland, in the waterleiding dunes, the water sewer dunes, and the island of Schiermonnikoog. And if you move your body through the piece hanging behind me, then you can perceive all the different birds and the transformations of those bird sounds by investigating it yourself, as a homage to the wonderful planet and the wonderful practice of those birds practicing only one melody in their whole lifetime, and the diversity of birds and all such aspirations. I think it's very interesting sonically to research this. So that's what you're going to experience from my hand. I'm gonna explain you a little bit more in depth now about how the distribution of the sound over the loudspeakers works. So you have a digital stream of audio at a sample rate. At exactly this sample rate, 44,100 times a second. At the same time, 80 bits are sent through the switches for the loudspeakers. So for each sample, it will set all the different loudspeakers on or off according to the current compositional procedure to distribute the sound. How would you control this as a composer? So you would have two channels, one channel for the audio and one CV channel, control voltage channel, in between 0 and 5 volts to index a loudspeaker. If you would point index a loudspeaker, so one loudspeaker per time, you would have one voltage per 16 loudspeakers, so to say. So then you would scan through all the loudspeakers individually. That's a point index map, so to say. You could also make a different map. So you go 1 0 1 0 1 0 and then shift this array through the whole system. That's a different map, and then you use the same control voltage in between 0 and 5 volts to scan through this map. You can send in different maps over Wi-Fi. So if you're controlling the system with an external computer or with a small microcomputer or whatever you're working with, you can set this pattern. If you're a sound artist like me, and your craftsmanship in sound art also encapsulates programming and designing sound architecture, so to say, then such a thing is very interesting. So you do not only sculpt the sound over time, but also happening in a three-dimensional space. So you have actually 80 physical locations on which those very short fragments of sound are designed.